5 seconds remaining.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to the final day of BGC 2015. We have a best of 3 and then a best of 5, but for right now, we got Keystars going up against Tshow. Lower bracket finals, loser is eliminated. Winner is going to go up against Pain Gaming in at aforementioned best of 5. Should be pretty darn interesting. Right now, it's Keystars to get knocked down by Pain, and then in round 2, and then Tshow also getting knocked down by Pain. So both these teams, of course, looking for the revenge. We'll see who's actually able to acquire it. Mikelorus going to be joined by GrandisV for this best of 3. And these are not your normal bans, but you know what? There's been Anti-Mage first picks like all over the place. I think that's fine for this tournament.
Yeah, and Templar Assassin 2 receiving a lot of high priority from a lot of these teams in this tournament. This is going to be a very important best of 3, which will set the tone for the finals in general. Oh, excuse me. But rather, Pain Gaming in this best of 5 following this series is favored against both of these teams, and it really is going to be down to who wins this one. As to who's going to be favored, we'll have to see. Keystars could definitely ride this momentum from the best of 3, and so could Tshow to take a victory in the BGC 2015 as a whole. So we'll have to see how they start off this draft after some pretty unconventional bans at Gyrocopter. First pick for Keystars.
Alright, I don't think I've actually seen them open up with this opening before, but it's definitely a strong hero that you can build off of. The problem is that it's not exactly as strong as Winter Wyvern and a Night Stalker. Gyrocopter is a hero that does somewhat punish you for trying to dive him. He's got, high damage tools if you're in close range like that Night Stalker, but for Tshow, they grab the Winter Wyvern first with that NS, most likely just going to be support and offlane selection. Tshow can go really any direction with this, but it looks like they're just going to be playing this a little bit more aggressively, and I'm trying to get into this Gyrocopter's face just a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of other heroes that weren't touched in this first banning stage, heroes like Doom could also be an option for Keystars as their next pickup for their offlane, and in general, there's still a lot of flexibility here since we're seeing so much focus, especially on the safe lane and on the mid lane in these first couple of bans. Since Keystars are the ones to ban out the TA and Shadow Fiend, I'm a little bit surprised that instead of going for a first pick Gyro, they don't pick up something like maybe a Windrunner or a Queen of Pain.
Or even like a first pick Ember Spirit, which teams have been doing. It's like kind of hard to suggest that, but man, you ban out all these mid lane heroes, you would expect that they would grab a mid lane hero who kind of needs that protection, who kind of has a rough time up against certain matchups. But no, maybe down the line. But for right now, it's just going to be Gyrocopter and now a Tusk here from Keystars. Two heroes that are fairly Night Stalker resistant. Just being able to snowball, say, no, you're not going to kill me, and Rocket Barrage call down is tough to dive into. But I'm expecting the mid lane selection to be coming up from Keystars, and it should be both sides looking for that Ember Spirit. I feel like that's just seen so much play over the course of this tournament. Never mind, it's banned out, but I mean, that's pretty much the same thing.
We might get to see something unconventional in the mid lane, given the fact that there's still 2 bans remaining, and we might even see both Queen of Pain and, well, actually, not Queen of Pain and Windrunner. It looks like Tshow are going to have the pick of one of those heroes, should they want to snag it for themselves. Yeah. Well, for Keystars right now, after going for the Tusk Gyrocopter, they're more than capable by themselves, but the Winter Wyvern Night Stalker is going to give Tshow quite a large opportunity where they're able to play incredibly aggressively, and the silence, especially on the Tusk during nighttime, is going to be make it very difficult for Keystars to access the defensive utility coming up from the Snowball. They'll ban the Queen of Pain, pick up the Windrunner, and I think Tshow, in general, should have mid lane supremacy. I don't think there are very many matchups left in the pool that Windrunner is going to struggle with, and I think the best that Keystars can hope for, unless they have a lot of focus from the support rotations mid lane, is to break even.
I'm kind of looking for like a Bane pickup here for Keystars, just another setup here for this Gyrocopter. Wind Ranger's the pick, of course, as you said, from Tshow, and if you look at the bans, they're like mostly melee, mid heroes rather, not melee heroes, but Wind Ranger's matchups, like even without any of these bans, should be pretty good, almost across the board, like 50-50, I think, at worst, for any given lane. So now Keystars have a decision point to make. It's not too late, I suppose, to just grab Io, grab Tiny, and try to do something along those lines, but it seems like they might be forced to go into one of these mid laners that's a little bit less conventional. They could always go for like a Venomancer, like one of those types of heroes, but they could alternatively just grab their supports and just delay that pick until much later.
For now, I think something like a Witch Doctor could be pretty good for Keystars. Something to respond to Night Stalker's dive. The Paralyzing Cask is very annoying when you're going aggressively under the towers, and would be a reasonable choice here for Keystars. Outside of that, there aren't very many super great defensive supports that are available in the pool. The top tier ones, Winter Wyvern and Dazzle, are either picked or banned. Since it is Keith Stars, I really wouldn't be surprised if they go for the IO here, but they are going to take a lot of their reserve time, probably considering some of those options.
Then we got to look towards the Tshow side for their future picks as well. I mean, it seems like they are already kind of set up to be a little bit more aggressive. You would expect Windranger and Night Stalker to have their lanes, and it is going to be that Bane from Key Stars. Just Nightmare into Rocket Barrage. If you have any sort of CC effect at all, maybe support Tusk, maybe another support hero, you will be getting those kills most of the time, and it's a pretty good answer to a Night Stalker. But really for Key Stars, it's just like going to be that setup pick for their safe lane, which for the most part was already set in stone. It's still the mid lane where they need to focus their efforts. Tshow, as I said, they're kind of looking to be more aggressively slanted. It's going to be interesting to see what core carry they choose in this type of environment. Bane is just difficult to deal with as any given carry hero. Maybe they're just going to grab someone like a Lancer and just try to out AoE them, or well, it's a Disruptor instead.
Yeah, for now, I think that's a reasonable pick. You can delay that safe lane farmer towards the 5th if you're a Tshow, and wait until you see what Keith Stars are going to bring to bear, and wait until you see at least 4 of their heroes on the table. This Bane in particular could be very annoying. A lot of the South American Banes in particular tend to go for Enfeeble earlier on, or at least are more likely to go for Enfeeble than in the other regions. So that might come into play and could, in theory, give Keith Stars an advantage in mid lane. Windrunner with that Enfeeble is going to find it very difficult to CS in the lane at all. Although Bane is going to struggle to sustain the mana, and it's not very conventional, might something to be looking out for this game.
Now maybe they could combo that up with a Razor, just try to get the Nightmare into steal damage combo. It's also a pretty Night Stalker resistant hero, and Tshow's damage output right now, I mean, it does get pretty high with the Windranger, but for the most part, these aren't really super high damage heroes. It's not going to be the Razor, it's going to be the Viper here from Key Stars. Yuga's Razor, last time I saw it, was but Viper versus Windranger, fairly even matchup there, but it's going to be very Viper favored if Bane is in fact going to grab that point of Enfeeble and start dumping those on the enemy Windranger. Hard to last hit with 30 damage when the Viper's hitting for like 70 plus with Nether Toxin. Ancient Apparition actually going to be banned out from the Tshow side. Doesn't seem like it's a good spot to grab a Huskar, so it seems like it may be a Doom last pick for Tshow, maybe?
Potentially, but I'm not entirely off the Huskar train. Ancient Apparition, when you see that banned out, the first hero to come to mind is the Huskar, and although they are going to have Nether Toxin and a lot of Disable, instead it's going to be a Slark. Okay, so that's the second hero that you think about when you look at the Ancient Apparition. I think this is a reasonable carry for Tshow. The lockdown from Keith Stars right now, the Tusk and the Bane, really does rely on them having level 6, and not only that, Fiend's Grip is fairly projected with the animation, can be packed out fairly reliably, and if Tshow get off to an early start, it's going to be very hard for Keith Stars to dislodge this. They need to do well in the lanes, and that's fairly common when you see a Viper picked up, as a hero is kind of lukewarm unless you get a very quick early advantage.
Yeah, Viper is a hero that can kind of tank Slark for a little bit, but as far as turning around and killing Slark, it's just not going to happen. We got a Visage here from the Keith Stars side. First time I think this hero is picked up in this main LAN event of this tournament, so interesting to see this option here for Key Stars. If you're looking at the Bane combo with the Gyrocopter, having that additional oomph at the end with that Soul Assumption will get kills on almost any given hero unless they like pounce dodge it or something like that. But it's a very high damage combo here from the Key Stars side. The problem with this Visage pick is that his answers to Slark are pretty much nil. Gravekeeper's Cloak doesn't do jack against Dark Pact, and as much damage as those familiars do, Slark is going to be doing a lot more damage a lot faster, so it's a good combo, I guess, but still, this Slark is going to be running around without answers, and he actually has pretty good setup as well in lane, just being able to glimpse someone back. It's pretty hard to miss the pounce from there.
10 seconds.
Yeah, in general, I think Keith Star's draft is not going to mesh nearly as nicely as Tshow when it comes to the timing windows they're going to hit with their heroes, and also their scaling feels very linear. It really, to me, feels like Keith Stars are at a disadvantage when it comes to their picks unless they do incredibly well in the lanes, and that's going to apply pressure to the individual players to perform. And in general, I like Tshow's idea a lot better. These heroes can fight so early, so often, and are going to be very, very potent going into this game. We're going to see the Bane, I believe, TP top to place out his ward in lane, and we'll be able to get a pretty darn good one.
Yeah, so they're looking to be aggressive with this Bane combination. On the Keystar side, they're going to be putting Lullaby on that Bane. Again, a fitting name for a fitting hero. Leposa is on the Gyrocopter. Yuka is going to be playing the mid lane Viper. You got Vestius on the Visage down towards bottom lane. Jubilu is going to be handling the Tusk by himself. This Tshow lineup can actually, like, once they get Blink or Shadowblade on Slark, just absolutely train wreck Keystars, just lane after lane after lane. Things can get really bad here.
Yeah, for sure. And, well, on the Tshow's side, we'll have Lil playing on the Winter Wyvern, King RD on the Night Stalker. Wind Ranger is going to be handled by Sis in the mid lane. Slug is going to be played by Therence, and Disruptor will be handled by Baga. The Bounty Rune contest from either side looks like Keystars want to make a pretty hard contest down towards bottom, and then turn around. A little bit indecisive there, but I think they should be able to secure this top Bounty Rune without much of a scuffle. Looks like a 0-minute skirmish isn't going to happen.
Keystar's level 1 right now is just so much better than Tshow's, but it doesn't look like it's actually going to matter that much. One Bounty Rune apiece for the Viper and the Wind Ranger, and just looking at this lane, it doesn't seem like there should be that much interference, the exception being Lullaby's Enfeeble, which is of course going to give the lane slightly more in favor towards Yuka, but the Viper versus Wind Ranger matchup in and of itself is usually fairly even. They both can poke at each other really well, have very similar ranges. But now it's really hard because Wind Ranger is not going to have any damage. So, yeah, there's Viper pretty much doubling up the Wind Ranger's damage. The CS should be really hard for Sis to come by.
Yeah, currently with 31 damage, then you throw in a little bit of armor on these creeps. She relies almost exclusively on Power Shot. But the first two Power Shots will net Wind Ranger 3 CS across the board, and that's admirable here when you have the Bane just chilling and throwing that Enfeeble constantly. There's not much that the supports coming out from Tshow can do to stop this Bane. Winter Wyvern and Disruptor at this point can't do anything to contest this, so they'll just have to suck it up, and Windrunner's farm is going to be a little bit less than she otherwise would. The good news, however, for Wind Ranger is the fact that Bane doesn't have another Enfeeble available. It is a very mana costly spell to sustain.
And this is the goal of this, is just to delay out the bottle from the Wind Ranger as much as possible and get Yuka just a small edge so he can hold an advantage in the lane. The trade-off, of course, is that you don't have Nightmare level 1, so going for a kill on King RD, like what he's trying to do right now, if he had level 2, he'd be feeling pretty good about this, but only level 1 Enfeeble Bane does very, very little. They don't have the kill power on this Night Stalker until Bane does grab the level 2, and for him it may be a little bit longer until he gets that. Good news for Keystars, though. The Observer placed by that Bane is just out of range of the Sentry by King RD, so he is going to be spotted the entirety of this laning phase, and that's just not a good place for Night Stalker to be up against such an aggressive lane. Then, of course, we have bottom. Tusk going to go up against this Lark and Disruptor combo. He can poke and prod as he's doing right now. He's already gotten quite a bit of experience, but he really does have to be careful. If he's not careful with that snowball timing, the Glimpse into Pounce is going to do a lot of damage.
Both of these offlaners are having a pretty similar showing. Both of them have found themselves level 3, and I think that's just fine for them. As long as they don't die, that should be their #1 priority, as is usual for your offlanes. The runes going either side, probably not going to change too much. A Hasted Bane, although usually pretty terrifying. Only level 1, only has Enfeeble. You might be able to get a little bit of poke damage on the King RD, but with 6 armor, Stout Shield running, and a Mango to regen himself up that 1 auto attack, does hardly anything at all.
And Lullaby still doesn't have that Nightmare, so there's no kill power here. They're going to catch Jubilu in the trees with some Thunder. It seems like he's just going to walk himself out. Snowball is a pretty good anti-glimpse tool, but at the same time, you don't really want to be snowballing on targets that you can't commit to, so this Tusk has to be super careful. The mid lane, interestingly enough, is dead even. Yeah, Wind Ranger just being able to withstand that Bane's Enfeeble harassment, and yeah, though Bane does have his level 2, it seems like the impact on this Bane's mid lane, or on the mid lane of the Viper, was close to nil.
Yeah, right now Sis is going to take quite a lot of harass from the Viper, but with access to Windrun should not be dying anytime soon. Nightmare up towards top. King RD's isolated, but the Gyrocopter is too far away to back up here, so this should just be King RD running away. In fact, will drop a Void onto Lullaby. They're going to slow him down even further. They have the Soul Assumption. Maybe I spoke too soon. Soul Assumption will fly. Not enough damage. They need a couple more right clicks. Salve will keep King RD safe, although it was a close call. I'm pretty sure that Soul Assumption wasn't the full 3 bars that it could have been, and maybe under that circumstances it could have been a kill. Although I think he still survives. It would have been a lot closer.
Oh, maybe round 2, however, this time with Leposa. Lil is here to take off the Nightmare, but now the Winter Wyvern's in a lot of trouble. They're still going to go for the Night Stalker. Rocket Barrage getting the full effect. They're going to dive the tower just a little bit. King RD's in a corner, and this is not in the place to get escape from. Now it's onto the Winter Wyvern, though. There's a creep wave coming. Leposa's actually completely stuck. Rip in peace, Gyrocopter. He's going to get killed off eventually by someone here. Leposa, right clicks. Well, it's going to be the creep wave to do it, but still, it's a 1-for-1 trade. First blood acquired by the Keystar side. Almost got that Winter Wyvern, but she's able to get on out of there. That's the threatening damage power of the Keystar side, but honestly, they should have killed the Night Stalker the first time. The Bane had a very clear opportunity to body block, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. The cost of that for the Radiant side especially is that they have to pull both of their supports off the bottom lane, so the Tusk is going to feel a lot more comfortable with getting experience, but after getting that kill, Disruptor is at level 4.5. It's really hard to say how this is going to impact the game, but a Disruptor, if given the levels, can have a huge impact with high points up in the Glimpse, and they're going to go for the dive onto Yuka with the power shot after the Void. This Viper really doesn't stand much of a chance and can't even return that much damage as they go for that with no ability for the supports to back him up. Lullaby as well as Vestius were forced all the way back to base.
And even if they did TP in, they wouldn't have gotten there in time. They probably would have died themselves. So a very nice clean gank on the enemy Viper, who I think has gone for the correct build, considering his lane opponent. It's the Nether Toxin build, but Power Shot, if it does land, is going to do a hell of a lot of damage, as does Void. It's only level 2 at this stage, but Night Stalker is not done quite yet. He's still sticking around this mid lane. Lullaby's not going to get caught out just yet, and does have the Viper here to help him out, but 2-1 for right now. Tshow are having a pretty good showing across the map, and as you said, that Disruptor, it can get pretty out of control. We saw Baga yesterday get, I believe, a 17-minute Aghanims. I want to say it was something like that, and that just, like, it blew my freaking mind because that's never supposed to happen, but it seems like he may be on a very similar track in this game. They're looking for Yuka. Shackle is actually not leveled by Sis, so never mind, they're not looking for Yuka.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Windrunner has gone for a very defensive build, and I guess against the Viper, that's probably the right choice, but it does come at the cost of kill potential. They'll look for the top rune. If this is a good one for King RD, double damage rune, haste, maybe even an invis, they could be able to set up kills. But on the flip side of the coin, Jubilee is going to be sitting on the rune bottom, and it looks like it's going to favor the Night Stalker, but they're going to give it the way of the Windrunner instead. Since she has no points in Shackle, this invis rune shouldn't be setting up too much, although it might get them into prime position to go for a dive. And right now, this dive is not spotted out by the Keystar's side, and it could be disastrous. The courier's flying over the trees. Will it be able to deliver its goods safely? It will. Ooh.
That's an awkward smoke. Good work, Wind Ranger. All planned, and Keystars are just sitting here going, what the hell just happened? They just lost a smoke. Where did it go? Did someone drop it? Sis just walking right in there, and that's not exactly the play that I was expecting from this Wind Ranger. Again, it's hard to actually do anything with an invis Wind Ranger that doesn't have Shackle Shot, but if you're sitting right on top of a smoke, it kind of all works out for itself. So Sis getting some value out of that invis rune, even though it looked like there was no value to be had. Whether intentional or not, we have great plays coming out from this Wind Ranger. And sooner or later, she's going to be getting that Shackle. Maybe level 4 Power Shot is a little bit more important, but yeah, sooner or later, she's going to have a little bit of help towards that Night Stalker, who right now is level 4. Hasn't done a ton in this first nighttime phase, but that's fine. It's usually the second nighttime phase which determines the pace of the game.
Yeah, he's still getting more experience than his counterpart, the Tusk. Both of these offlaners won't be super active until they get just a little bit more. The Tusk is invested completely into the Ice Shard Snowball, but doesn't have the greatest heroes to combo up in the bottom or mid lanes to get kills. Killing off this Windrunner is almost impossible, and you really do need either the Gyrocopter, Visage, or Bane in order to buddy up and get anything going around the map. Jubilee is just staying inside the trees, so keep himself safe, has the defensive snowball if things really hit the fan, and should be able to get his level 6 at a reasonable click. But for how many aggressive heroes we've had in this game, it's been pretty passive. Only a handful of rotations. A lot of that does come down to the smoke being blown by the Windrunner. Not only is that time wasted and gold wasted by the Keystar's side, but it's also some space created for the Slark, as everybody was pulled off of his lane.
I'm interested to see where the Slark is actually going to go with this build. He's gone for pretty much all the small basic items that he could possibly want. Wand, Poor Man's Shield, and Aquila. And he only has brown boots right now. He might just go for an upgrade there, but the decision point, I think, right now for Terrence is, do I go for like a Hand of Midas type build, or do I just go straight for the Shadow Blade Blink style? That'll really determine how the game flows for Tshow for the rest of the game. He is farming enough that maybe he can get a Hand of Midas and it won't really interrupt anything else, but what do you think's the build here for this Slark?
I kind of like the tread straight into the Shadow Blade, but Midas isn't going to slow down his impact too much. It really is up to personal preference, but I think getting the Slark activated earlier will help a lot more for the team and make him battle ready for the second nighttime, which is the window that Tshow really want to hit aggressively and start applying pressure towards the Keystar's side. If he goes to a Midas, he probably won't have the Shadow Blade for the first nighttime, and if he does, it will be at the very end of it and might not be able to get value there.
Seems like he's going to grab Gloves of Haste, no Power Tread, so he is going to go for that
Probably Midas, yeah.
And nighttime is going to be, still quite a ways away, but it's going to be a really awkward timing since they said they want to be at their full strength during the second nighttime phase. And, and they will be at their full strength in the third and fourth, but for the second nighttime phase, the Night Stalker is going to be active. Hell, everyone is going to be active on Tshow, with the exception being the Slark, who is, going to be able to contribute to any kills that happen in his lane, but is going to be pretty unwilling to leave his own lane and roam around. He needs to get that farm afterwards, so I think this is okay for Tshow, just playing it slightly slower, but in that regard, they do have to apply a little bit more pressure towards Leposa up towards top lane. Is going to have quite a bit of damage output in just a little bit. Doesn't have, all those super basic items like the Slark has, but he has Rocket Barrage, and Rocket Barrage is pretty damn good.
Yeah, and also Call Down. He'll be able to contribute a lot more with the TP rotation as Tshow are going aggressive than probably the Slark will. Although down towards bottom lane, it looks like Baga might be able to cancel his TP with a glimpse. Tusk is going all the way back to base, and he wasn't spotted out by any vision coming out from the Radiant. The ward that they placed down just didn't quite reach.
Mid tier 1, gonna take a lot of damage, is fortified right now. Sis is gonna try to bum rush it, but Lullaby's gonna show himself. Threat of Nightmare's gotta force them back, but here comes King RD, and here comes Baga as well. Did he just smoke? I think he did. Power shot onto Lullaby, not quite gonna do it, but here comes Call Down onto two heroes. Both of them gonna take quite a bit of damage, but not lethal damage. Familiar's gonna cut off King RD's gonna run back right towards the Viper. Embrace not gonna save him, he's gonna get picked off. Power shot through is gonna drop Lullaby even lower, but Sis now has just gotta book it. He's going to bottle up, and he will be fine. The shard's not quite being thrown far enough. Baga's Static Storm's gonna do absolutely jack all as the post is behind everyone. A good position for a Jackal to be in. Vestas gonna get glimpsed right back into it. Now here comes Terrence. Pouncing gonna land onto Jubilu. Pact is gonna destroy this Tusk health pool. That's gonna be 2 kills for Tshow. Losing the Night Stalker. Shackle gonna land onto Lullaby, and he's gonna get worked down as well. It's a double kill for Baga over in this mid lane. Ultimately, going to be a 1-for-3 trade as the Night Stalker was the only casualty of war.
That looked like it could have turned around pretty poorly for Tshow, but after they commit the Tusk Snowball and Ice Shards unfruitfully, their ability to initiate into this fight is pretty much moot. Denial coming up from the tower, or unsuccessful from Leposa, as Windrunner is able to secure it, and it looks like she'll get out to safety, although only just didn't have mana for Windrun, so it could have been sketchy if Viper had a Viper Strike available, but still on cooldown for 10 seconds. And across the board, that's going to be a big victory for Tshow. Not only is that a victory in the mid lane, but the Slark didn't have to fully commit to that fight, although I do believe that he got involved a little bit. He'll just go back to farming very quickly. Has his Midas running now, and maybe, just maybe, he's able to farm up that Shadow Blade super fast and still be able to join his team for the early nighttime phase.
Unless this happens, we got a big smoke up from Keystars, and they're looking like they're going in the correct direction to intercept this Slark. Killing him off is going to be possible, although Shadow Dance is coming up in 9 seconds. I'm not sure if that's going to be up in time. It really depends on how long it takes Keystars to find this Slark and whether or not they can open up with the Nightmare. They have no grip, actually. They actually just can't kill him. They need to use Snowball and Punch and then use the full-on Rocket Barrage. It's going to be a very, very small window to kill off this Slark before he either Shadow Dances out or pounces out. But yeah, this Slark has grabbed that Midas and is going to be farming up pretty quickly. It's not going to be active directly for the first nighttime phase, but maybe the tail end of it, or the second half of the second nighttime phase, that might just be good enough. Baga's now 2-0-2 on the Disruptor. He's not going to get a super fast Aghanim Scepter, but still, he is level 7 at this point. That's a very high level when you compare him to level 4 Bane. Yeah, Visage is level 6, that's not too bad, but geez, this Disruptor is getting much further ahead than any Disruptor should. He's in fact 900 gold ahead of his Night Stalker, which is for some reason happening.
I'm a little bit surprised that Baga commits for the second urn for the team, although I don't think this is bad by any means. If Tshow are able to keep up the aggression, Night Stalker and Disruptor aren't in the same lane together. Let's see. Yeah, I think the only way they kill off this Slark is if Therence gets caught out inside this camp from Fog, and it's not going to be the case. He's going to be able to get the Shadow Dance pounced out. Ice Shards are there, but not going to wall him in. That was a close call. The Snowball forward. The Tusk is committing deep behind the tower. I don't see this ending well for Jubilu. They have a glimpse, and there's no way for this Tusk to get out to safety since he's already committed the Snowball, and he's going to be the casualty. Although looking for the deny, Lullaby not able to catch it. And there's a shackle onto Leposa. They'll catch the Windrunner out towards the north of this fight. Nightmare is there to step for the call down. She's going to get the first missile, and with the Soul Assumption, the damage is there onto Sis, a little bit more from the Visage, and that's going going to be lethal. Nightstalker comes in from the sidelines. Currently just a 1-for-1 trade, although a lot of posturing from both of these teams. They might be able to isolate Baga. One attack from Poison is all they really need, but he turns around for Static Storm. They have to Winter's Curse and Lullaby. The Bane is dropped incredibly low, but they focus on Besties instead with the Gravekeeper's Cloak burned through. He'll melt, and now they catch out the Bane too. That's going to be yet another kill for the Tshow's side. The only one that they lose is the Windrunner. It might not be over yet, although Yuka finds himself a lucky Invis rune, so they're not able to catch.
For Key Stars, that was pretty lucky for them to not get away with as many casualties. That was supposed to be, I guess the plan was there for Tshow. Drop the curse on a 3, Static Storm field those same 3. The Static Storm was a little bit off, miscommunication, however you want to say it, failed, but Key Stars still get away with that Viper, who probably would have died otherwise if he did get caught by that. They go just way too deep with the Tusk, and yeah, they kill off the Wind Ranger, but once they kill off that Wind Ranger, they find themselves in really tight corners where they don't really have many escape paths, and, well, Tshow had them completely surrounded at that point, so the Slark getting a little bit more cash now is going to go for Power Tread. Second nighttime phase is upon us right now, and for Key Stars, they tried to make an offensive play, and I think that was the correct move, but going way too deep for it. If they just let the Slark go, backed off, maybe tried to run into the mid lane where Sis was farming, who knows, they could all have survived that, but instead they are going to be under that much more pressure given the fact that they all just died, giving a hell of a lot of gold and experience to the Tshow side. Where is the Tshow play going to be? It seems like in their own jungle they are going to smoke under an observer? No?
No, Slark knows there's an observer there, so
Right.
they should be able to back off behind it, and they are going to find themselves inside the trees, but Key Stars know that they've grouped up, so they might be expecting the smoke play even though they didn't see the smoke directly.
And the smoke is going to go towards Jubilee, not again towards this Tusk. There is no silence here for the Night Stalker, but Jubilee doesn't really have that much backup nearby. He's going to snowball instantly. That's not going to do that much. Now here comes the Slark, looking for the kill steal, gets it. Needs that cash for that Shadow Blade or Blink Dagger. That's a super dead Tusk. The trade for Key Stars, they're looking for it up towards top lane. Familiars do quite a bit of damage to these structures. However, Fortify is going to keep it alive right now. Sis and Lil going to mount to full defense. Night Stalker coming around from behind. Has no backup just yet. His Slark is lagging behind just a little bit. Spotted by the Observer Ward with slow incoming and is going to actually wrap fully around. Oh, Courier, no! Run, Panda! Oh, King RD, so mean.
And with that extra bit of career gold, they'll further accelerate their team towards really big items. This Slark is getting fat, almost 7k net worth here at almost 15 minutes into the game. He's much more farmed than Leposu, who currently is just a couple inches away from Baga, although he doesn't know it. They'll fly the Familiars over the top. Ice Shard's there, wall off the Slark, but he's able to bounce right through that. The cooldown hardly effective at all. And with that cooldown now on CD, Keenstar is going to find it difficult to take this fight, especially with the hasted Windrunner. They need to be so very careful, and right now, they are careful enough.
Tshow are going to back off right now, though they do have the Curse and the Static Storm and a little bit of Darkness left. They're going to make the defensive play and get Terrence that item before they actually ready to go super aggressive towards the Key Stars side. And if they're able to go back to those lanes fast enough, they'll have a small window where they're farming. Key Stars are kind of just waffling around that top lane. By the time the Slark does get that big item, regardless of what it is, Sis should have his Aghanim Scepter or very close to his Aghanim Scepter. They're still up on top. They're going to catch the post at a really good angle for a Shackle. Sis going to find him. Shackle going to connect. There is no focus fire here. Static Storm not going to be used either. And now Laposa has a couple of opportunities to use Rocket Barrage. He's going to get hit with the Curse. However, there's a Bane here. Can get the Nightmare, and it looks like they will set up for the Rocket. Sis is going to take a lot of damage from that one. Soul Assumption available. That should be the death of the Wind Ranger, and it will be. They also lose the Disruptor as the Viper is able to take him down and then get all the way back to base. It's a 2-0 in favor of Key Stars. I feel like they could have gotten
in the
that
meantime.
kill.
Ticks down to the last Urn Charge coming out from King RD. Will be the final kill and does get Tshow on the board with that last exchange, but another awkward Static Storm.
If you just drop Static Storm immediately after the Shackle Shot, like just for damage value, I'm pretty sure they get that kill. No problem whatsoever, but I mean, they take it 2-for-1. It's not the worst trade in the world for Tshow. They get the tower as well. All things considered, it could have gone a lot worse, but just sloppy plays. A couple sloppy plays from both of these sides, but hey, as long as the Slark isn't dying for Tshow, they're going to be happy with that. And he is going to go for that Shadow Blade, and he's very, very close to it.
At almost 17 minutes into the game, Slark has everything he could want. Not only is that Midas going to propel him towards the Shadow Blade, but he also has level 11. And for Slark, getting level 11 means so much. His burst damage coming out from Dark Pact and Pounce is at its peak, and Shadow Dance scales incredibly well when it comes to that extra health that you're going to get. And every second inside a team fight counts for a Slark, and he'll even get a couple of sentries pulled to himself so that he can de-ward on his lonesome. They're going to bump into King RD down towards bottom lane, but this Viper really can't do very much about it. Only 1 point to the poison attack. Viper's build in general feels like it's not paying off for Keatstar's side. It hasn't helped him get an edge in the lane, and they haven't been able to transition this mech into towers, although I think that's the Keatstar's plan. They're losing the war of attrition. This Slark is just massively out-farming them. The Gyrocopter looks to be going towards an SNY next, but hasn't gone for the Helm and hasn't had very many stacks prepared for him, although right now his Ancients are looking pretty happy with double Golems and double Thunder Hides.
As nice as it is to have this mech on a Viper, I feel like in this game where they are playing a kind of slow-ish game, or at least they aren't going super turbo aggro, they should be looking instead for like a straight Aghanim's rush. Like, Mechanism is a good item, but if you're not actually going to look for those fights actively, then Mechanism kind of just rots in the Viper's inventory and is not a super cheap item that you could get and absorb the cost. Viper isn't a hero that farms really quickly, so he is going to be stuck with that item, and it's kind of a, not dead assets in his inventory, but assets that he really doesn't want to have spent. Up towards top lane, tower is going to be pushed, same time mid is going to be pushed as well. Power shots are going to fly. The familiars are actually in a really bad angle now. Here comes Terrence Shadowblade. Surprise Vestius, the Slark has it, and this Visage is in a lot of trouble. Terrence is going to obliterate him. Failed shackle onto Yuka. He's still pretty slow, but out here comes the grip onto Terrence. Can't get his ultimate off, and he will get Walrus Punch to death. Yuka is going to be outside the static storm again. Baga's failing to land them. Here comes the call down. Baga's down. King RD is going to chase down, walled off by the shards, and now Sis has just got to book it. He's going to turn around, shackle Lullaby, who didn't have a nightmare anyway. Sis is going to try to TP out. Should get out of here, and he will. But the Slark just getting hit with that grip, which Lullaby, I believe, used for the first time this game, had no way to save him. And once you lose your Slark, the fight is pretty much over for Tshow.
That was a really awkward dive for Tshow to go for. If we take a look at their ward vision right now, they have a ward over on the cliff, and that's the closest that you get to seeing the backup coming out from Keatstar's, and it really just doesn't do it. If you're going to go for a dive like that, you need vision either on this high ground or vision similar deep behind the tower to make sure that you don't get caught out by that grip. They had no idea where the Bane was coming from, although nighttime helps the NS's vision, and Slark has better than normal. The angle just wasn't there, and Keatstar's are able to react very easily to such an aggressive tier 2 tower dive. That's going to bring this game a lot closer to even than Tshow will feel comfortable with. Before that fight, they had almost a 7,500 net worth advantage. That's now been pared down almost to about 3k. The Keatstar's side are going to get a lot of very crucial acceleration on their heroes, and although the Slark is still ahead of the Gyrocopter, a lot of that gold is tied up in the Midas. And although attack speed on Slark is by no means a bad thing, you'd much rather have that 2k gold invested into a drums if you're fighting right now.
And also the fact that they have a disruptor who is not really being an effective disruptor. The static storms, I feel like, have hit 0 people. Important people. On the top lane, they caught some creeps with the kinetic field, farm for the disruptor, I suppose, but you really need your static storm to land on at least like one person. Baga's just been not on his game today, and if you have a disruptor who's such a high level with that static storm available, you need some impact out of this hero, but he's just not providing that for his team. It's definitely not too late for him to step up and start using that static storm to get those kills, but if he had a static storm there just on like 1 or 2 heroes, just them being trapped in the field, not being able to get close enough, Viper and Gyrocopter not with the most attack range, that could have been just a straight up victory for Tshow, but just not going to happen just yet. Maybe the next time for the static storm, but it is the nighttime phase, the regular nighttime phase, and it seems like for Tshow, they're a little bit scared at going aggressively after that last fight.
To be fair, Baga's maxed out glimpse has been massive utility for the team, and it's helped them out quite a lot. But if that static storm is like able to cancel out the Fiend's grip that was going the way of the Slark, or caught anybody at all, the fight would have gone a lot better for them. The good news, however, for Tshow is they have the full Ags up for the Windrunner, and that is going to help them out quite a lot. As she gets her first major pickup, she's going to fish for a shackle. Jubilee is going to position himself in a way that it's almost impossible, and Sis is forced to pull all the way out. Down towards the bottom area, the Gyrocopter is farming aggressively. The Slark is coming in shadow-bladed. Ooh.
No. It's like 2 versus 1 is not something the Slark wants to do just yet. He knows exactly where they are, but he's running out of Shadow Blade.
They're TPing in, and they have the Night Stalker coming in from the south. It looks like they want to go. He's going to open up, but gets the pact off on the Fiend's Grip. Will be able to blow a blow by the Static Storm is there. And this time around, it'll be good enough. They don't see the Gyrocopter. He's looking for the escape, but pulled back will end up going down.
Oh, Terran's almost going to go down there as well, but the Winter Wyvern coming in just in the nick of time with that embrace. I thought that was going to be a dead gank since the Slark ran out of invis, and that was a super awkward initiation from the Slark, but was able to pack out that grip, and that is the upside of having a Slark versus a Bane. You can lock down the Slark if you Nightmare him and then immediately grip while the Nightmare is still active, but that's something that you need a lot of time to prep, and the time is just not there for Keystar. So Terrence gets himself a couple of kills, and now they're looking towards top lane where Yuka is maybe going to get shackled to the north tree line. Oh, Sis actually has no good angle right now. Power Shot's going to get some vision. Now Terrence is going to walk straight in. Pounce him up. No shackle, no problem, really. They're just going to work him down with the Focus Fire. Bane is going to come in, but now Yuka's going to drop Terrence. Brain Sap will get the kill because he packed it himself. That's Slark down in trade for the Viper. Sis should be fine, but Slark, you'd expect him to be rotating around, getting these kills and escaping, as Slarks usually do, but having fallen there, that's going to cost him quite a bit. Now Sis is not quite out of the woods just yet. Familiar is going to look to cut him off, just a little bit too quick.
Yeah, that was just very unfortunate for the Slark. He usually wants to be on low HP and then escape it down towards bottom lane. They're going to get a punch on Kieran. King RD's down close to the tower, has some backup though. With Kinetic Field, looks like Vestius is going to go down, although with a little bit of healing. Might be able to turn things around with a beautiful call down from the Gyrocopter, and this looks like it's an absolute disaster for the Radiant side, although it is going to cost them a handful of their supports, but they'll take that trade anytime, really.
Man, Leposa has been just on point with his positioning and timing. He's like always been there to land 2-3 man calldowns and then just running in there, buzzing him down with the guns. And this time especially grabbing himself a triple kill, but Sanjin Yasha drums, his mobility is very, very high right now. Only has one drum charge left, but still, like, he's now in a position where he can go for another big item. Maybe going to be a BKB, maybe going to be something a little bit more smashy, but either way, the Gyrocopter is absolutely loaded up on that cash and is very quickly approaching the Slark, who is, by the way, working with Handamitis and has been working with that Handamitis for a very long time. Terrence is holding on to a lot of gold, and as a Slark, I feel like too many Slarks do this. Like, you should be spending your gold as Slark as you get it, because you need to be constantly more powerful than your opponents to get those pickoffs and then escape afterwards. I don't know what he's saving for, but he probably could have picked up, like, a Sanj if it was going to be Silver Edge, at least. That would have helped him so much.
The biggest issue for Slarks is the next item that you want to be building is Scotty, and it doesn't necessarily have the greatest build-up. You probably want the Aquila instead of having the ultimate orb in your inventory, and the same can almost be said for Magic Wand, although it costs significantly less. That burst heal is not to be underestimated. They are going to be able to pack out the grip and run away. Terrence will be fine. This time around, the cooldown isn't good enough. They'll glimpse back the poor Bane. It looks like Lullaby is going to have to pay for that attempted kill. They'll toggle off the Nightmare. The Brain Sap's there to delay, but Lullaby will go down. Just a little bit more damage from Slark, and that is going to be the death of him. Once Slark commits his gold, he'll be pretty close to even in Leposa when it comes to fighting power, but the buildup is a lot easier for Gyrocopter. These are items that you can pick up in and of themselves that are very nice, like a Yasha, a Sanj. These are cheap, very cost efficient. You talked about the Sanj maybe for Terrence to go for the Silver Edge, but if he's not going to go for the Silver Edge build-up, and really the only advantage I see here for that is to disable Viper's Corrosive Skin. Outside of the damage reduction, which isn't mitigatable, or isn't something to understate, but probably not something he wants to commit for. I think his build-up is fine, but it's not going to pay off until probably another minute or so, unless he gets a pick-off like what he's fishing for on the Viper.
That is a tanky hero. Point booster, as the Aghanim Scepter is being built up on the Viper, is going to make him that much tougher to crack. And I mean, the problem with the Slark holding this much gold is that his net worth shows 12k, but 4,500 of that is dead, so he's closer to the Night Stalker than anyone else. He's going to ship out the TP Scroll, grab the double orbs, and look at that, plus 20 stats, everything. Turns out it's pretty good, now to 1,500 HP, can maybe stand a chance of killing off that Viper, but yeah, he's going to grab that Scotty sooner rather than later, it seems. And it may just be up in time for the next nighttime phase. The Aghanim Scepter will be up, and in fact it is up right now for King RD, so this next nighttime is going to be, I think, one of T-Show's more aggressive ones. Like, they have all their item timings, Mechanism now on Disruptor, Sis has his Blink Dagger, pretty much doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, on top of that, they also get level 16 on Slark. Maxed out Shadow Dance will mean that he's out of the fight for a significantly less amount of time than he otherwise would. Whenever you pop that Shadow Dance, the heal that you get is pretty absurd, but maybe, especially with the Solar Crest on the Visage, they can still somewhat deal with the Slark, or maybe just go straight for Roshan. The Solar Crest on Vestius is coming out at a very fast timing for support, as the Visage has been able to be involved in a lot of kills, and although, They're going to pop the darkness. I don't think they've detected the enemy side. Double ward's going to be placed down. A little bit redundant during darkness, going to be significantly less impactful. That was supposed to be a sentry, that second obs, but they're going to go for the Roche. Lullaby pops his head out of the pit. I think they know, and King RD's invis.
They still don't see King RD though. The sentry coverage is there, but they don't actually have sight because of the darkness. So King RD has full vision right now. Now here comes Lil looking for the curse. Should be onto Liposa, and it is. Static Storm is going to follow. That's caught 3, and Terrence is going to jump right in. Gyrocopter down. The Visage is down, and Tusk is going to buy himself a little bit of time with the Snowball, but it's not going to save him in its entirety. He's going to Snowball towards Roshan. Actually blink out of there. He actually is going to escape, but the Bane will not. Caught with the Focus Fire down on the southern end. And that is going to be 3 heroes down for Keystars, and look at that, a convenient Roshan. The Tusk survives, and I guess that's really nice for the Keystar side. He's actually going to, okay, blink on out of there. The value of darkness, man. If they saw the Night Stalker there, Keystars would not have taken that fight, wouldn't have touched that with a 20-foot pole, but they just couldn't see him. The detection wasn't in range.
Yeah, on top of that darkness, King RD has that Aghanim Scepter running. They had perfect vision inside the pit, whereas Keystars saw nothing. And that's so terrifying. To go into fights that you really don't know what's happening. Tshow had complete control over that situation. They start out things with a silence on the Bane. They get a really nice Static Storm, Winter's Curse combination that's been missing throughout a lot of these fights, but when it's in such close quarters, it's really hard to mess up. There was no hope for the Keystars team. Oh, yeah.
This going to drop kind of low, but turns around for Jubilee. Focus Fire, Thunderstrike may just kill him off. Oh, it's not going to. He's going to find his way through the trees again, but Lullaby's silence. King RD's right on his ass. Power Shot Blind is going to kill off Jubilee. Lullaby looking to turn things around for a Brain Sap or something. That's about all he has, but Terrence comes in from the back with the Winter Wyvern. Terrence is actually going to straight up retreat. Lullaby is maybe going to take down to this urn. It's going to be really close. He's going to live. That's going to be just a 1-for-1 after all is said and done. The Slark kind of hesitant to fully commit there. He is going to get the Enfeeble on him, so he's not doing a ton of damage right now. But the Bane, luckily, getting out of there with his life, but Vestius in a little bit of trouble. No, never mind. Everyone is going to just back off in the end, but Terrence's kill power is so huge right now, and we can also see the damage that Sis is doing. He has Crystallis in the inventory, so pretty much no one's safe once they get hit with the Focus Fire unless they somehow get bailed out by a Snowball.
At least for the next couple of seconds, Winter also has a DD, which might be more impactful than the Crystals, but she's going to use that remainder of the DD to take out the tier 2 tower in the bottom lane. Right now, the vision that Tshow have is just something that Keystars can't fight into. Keystars have hardly any wards on this map, and they can't sustain that vision because Slark and Night Stalker combined together are way too good at dewarding. You have the gem on Night Stalker, and every single one of these fights they have perfect vision. The Tusk was spotted out that entire time, even though he was juking inside the trees, and under normal circumstances, maybe he even lives. But they spotted him out. The power shot was a reliable way to get that kill because of the Night Stalker offering so much utility for the team. And I think the biggest issue for Keystars right now is the fact that they just aren't able to start fights on their own terms, and that's something you hardly ever say when you have a Blink Dagger on this Tusk. They're playing very reactionary because they have to. When you don't have vision, it's almost impossible to start fights.
You have to wait till it's daytime and then hope that they don't see the smoke or something like that. It's a very narrow timing for Keystars. While it's nighttime, they are pretty much completely hopeless at starting these fights, so they have to be on the defensive. But nighttime doesn't last forever, I guess. But King RD is approaching level 16 pretty quickly, so his Darkness spell is going to have a super low cooldown. It's only like 30 seconds of dead time where it's not darkness, or where it's not nighttime rather. So Keystars' window for initiation is very quickly closing. Their Gyrocopter, as farmed as he is now starting to fall behind. He hasn't gotten anything since last I checked, although BKB... Okay, no, never mind. BKB is finally up. Ask the Slark if he cares, though. The Winter Wyvern, the Wind Ranger, like, all these heroes do so much into a BKB target that I don't really know if this is going to be quite enough. Aghanim Scepter on Viper is also a pretty substantial item from the Keystars.
He wanted that courier so bad. Going into tier 3 towers for it, won't be able to find it.
Bottom lane, spotted completely. And now you gotta try to, like, hope that there's no cancellation. He has backup in Tusk. And Field is going to catch him that one. Then here comes Tusk. Walrus Punch in onto Baga. Static Storm is there, but they're all snowballed. And now the Static Storm is going to start to connect. Curse is there. Grip, though, onto King RD. Vestius somehow still alive. Drops a Soul Assumption. Glimpse finally going to cancel that grip as King RD is still somehow alive. Baga slips himself up to the north. He's still surviving King RD, but he's now going to try to book it. Nightmare is going to set up for another Shards from Jubilee. They also see Baga, who's actually completely trapped. Blink, Walrus Punch. Going to kill off. No. Okay, he's going to teleport out. Okay, he will get the kill in the end. As in the meantime, it seems like they lost the Viper. He got jumped by Sis and Terrence, who were crucially lacking in that bottom lane fight.
has fallen.
And, well, without that Slark and Wind Ranger's damage output, they really
Yeah.
didn't really stand much of a chance there, Tshow. They put up a decent fight, like, considering the fact they don't have these heavy hitters, but even one of them, like, you don't need both. Just pick one of these two heroes, and I don't see that fight on the bottom lane going remotely well for Keystars.
Across the map, it's still pretty even when it comes to the numbers trade, but since Keystars were so far behind, they'll take anything they can get. And they are going to find themselves with a better gold exchange based on the kills, but since the tier 2 tower falls in mid...
Blink instantly to the Nightmare. Now here comes the missiles. Brain Sap is there, though Sis is, again, really quick. He's going to try to TP out. He will have enough HP to do so. That was, well, both sides working with vision, so, yeah, when you have a Nightmare queued up, you're just always going to land it. And Shackle's shot, unfortunately, does have a cast time. So it's not going to be any deaths just yet. Sis, though, has his Daedalus, and Slark has a Silver Edge. Tshow are getting huge items, and Keystar's items, though they are kind of coming up, are just not quite as big.
I really do like the decision of the Bane to go for Enfeeble. It's a spell that we see almost ignored completely, but although Enfeeble is going to significantly mitigate Windrunner's damage, it's not going to solve it in its entirety. She is going to be operating with about half of what she normally would, but half when you're getting crits and you have the Aghanim's Focus Fire on top of all of that is still terrifying. Although Slark, I don't believe, can purge it with his Dark Pact. That probably is going to be the more likely target inside these fights. Theirs can still steal the edgy.
Radiant's top tower
Slark cannot purge. I don't think anyone can actually get rid of an Enfeeble. There are no effects that can get rid of it. Like, even Time Lapse I don't think works. So once you're enfeebled, you're enfeebled. You gotta have like a Lincoln Sphere beforehand or something like that. So yeah, this is just going to be a point-click minus 120 damage. And as you said, the Slark is still gonna be able to steal some damage, but if you look at his damage output right now, minus 120, he's not doing any damage at all. Like maybe some Essence Shift stacks, but that's pretty much like a point-click, you're out of the fight tool for this Bane. And for Keystars, just to get rid of either the Wind Ranger or the Slark, that's big game. Like, that's two of the high damage heroes from the Tshow side. The Bane just has to make sure that he has the proper positioning, and that's when he needs vision up. They have a gem now on Jubilee, so they're going to keep themselves slightly safer, but the Slark, even though he is shut down pretty hard by the Bane, can always assassinate the Bane in like a matter of seconds, especially with a double damage rune. That certainly doesn't hurt.
He's going to be hunting here, but needs to be careful. If he walks in range of the Tusk, this could go very poorly for him. He's going to jump right onto Vestius. TP away by the Visage is not going to save his life, but now Theron's is pretty darn deep. The pop that goes, Scepter on the backlines. Winner is going to look for the Shackle Bolt. Defensive Snowboulder right on top of her. Rocket Barrage, and Sis is going to take the Viper Strike and will go down. The Slark is able to assassinate the Bane in the backlines while all of that is happening, but 2 supports for a Windrunner is a trade that Keed should be pretty happy with, as long as that's all it is. Slark has 9 stacks of Essence, has the double damage still for a couple seconds. If he catches the Viper, Yuka, as he's going to farm this large camp, could end up going down very fast. It looks like he is going to do just that. He's going to try for the TP. Can they get the Winter Wyvern close by? They won't, and he'll be able to survive with a little bit of luck. And with a little bit of obs and sentry vision up on that high ground, but still, it's going to be good for Keystars.
That fight was, I mean, the loss of the Wind Ranger there was, for the most part, avoidable by Tshow. Like, they voluntarily take that fight with just the Slark and the Wind Ranger. Ooh, the Familiars might get picked off here. The Visage has no resummon, actually, so if they kill these things off, they're down for good. There were no supports in the area. Like, the Winter Wyvern, the Disruptor, and the Night Stalker were all, like, kind of in the Radiant jungle for some reason. And even though Slark is a hero that does like to go for those assassination plays, you kind of need to have heroes at least in a position where they can reinforce if shit is going to hit the fan, and those heroes were just nowhere nearby. If the heroes were there, having the Curse, having the Glimpse back, they could have, you know, gotten away with so many more kills and probably even 0 casualties there. But Tshow splitting off into kind of weird pairs. You would expect like it to be Slark, Winter Wyvern, and then Wind Ranger, Night Stalker, Disruptor, or you know, just split up the Slark and the Wind Ranger, as together that is a lot of damage but very little utility. They really do need the help from their support. So Tshow kind of separating themselves into kind of awkward sized squads, but now they're going to actually go straight for Roshan. Nighttime is once again going to fall, and Roshan is going to be scouted, I think, by the power shot. They're going to jump right in. Walrus Punch onto Sis right now. Call down is not going to happen just yet because of the Curse. He does have his BKB up. It's taking no damage. In the meantime, Terrence jumping towards the back line is going to instead miss the pounce, but the Gyrocopter's already down. Sis just worked him down with the Focus Fire. Now they catch a Shackle onto Jubilee and Roshan. I've never seen that before, but that's going to be a dead Tusk. Glimpse back onto Lullaby is going to put himself to sleep. But he's going to wake up in a nightmare, and now he's going to be completely swarmed. Double kill for Terrence, and Roshan is once again going to be claimed by Tshow. BKB gyrocopter, as I said before, is not super useful here.
Is under attack.
Well, I'm not going to say it's useless, but he needs some way to keep himself alive. He needs some sort of defensive support behind him that can save his own life. The gyrocopter doesn't have that fallback mechanism. He doesn't have like a Winter Wyvern or a Dazzle or anybody really to stop the damage once it is coming through. And at that point he needs to get this MKB finished, but it just wasn't available for that fight. A really well executed one coming out from Tshow. But I will draw attention to that shackle angle on Roshan was absolutely garbage. Like the Windrunner was coming down from the south. That was close to like a 90-degree angle, or at least it looked like it. They're going to blink forward, they get a silence onto Yuka, and now they're going back on the Vipers inside the field, but under tier 4s, they're not going to feel comfortable enough going for that dive. But now they have a Lincoln Sphere on this Slark. He was already super hard to deal with before, but with a Lincoln's, that's going to be close to impossible. You might even consider popping it with like a Viper Strike or a Grave Chill. Grave Chill's the ideal situation, I believe, but Visage can't be that close to the fight.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a couple of junk skills to throw at this Slark, but there are more, big skills that it's going to block than junk skills that it's going to absorb. So the Slark has some pretty good value here, and even if he is going to get hit by some of those skills, still has almost 3k HP, so it's not like if he gets hit with a grip, he's just dead. Sis is going to hit with a Viper Strike. He's going to get glimmered out, taking very little damage from it. Familiar double stomp, but again, it's not going to do too much. Missile, again, not going to do a ton there. He's just going to get embraced and back up to, well, 3/4 HP. Another embrace should be incoming. They have one earned charge left, but really they're not in any rush, Tshow. The lanes are not going in their favor. The side lanes aren't going in their favor, so they may just want to fall back, try to lure Keystars out of their base, and then pounce again one more time. But they have the Aegis, and this should be at least Tshow trying to set up for a high ground push.
Right now, Tshow are controlling the map. Their heroes scale very nicely into the late game. Most importantly, the Slark and the Windrunner do a crazy amount of damage, and much more than the Viper. At this point, the Viper is a Viper Strike machine. His damage that he's putting out inside these fights and his tank ability inside these fights is next to nothing. And right now, I don't think that the Slark and the Windrunner care about that Viper Strike too much, so Key are at a disadvantage when it comes to their heroes. They need to make sure that Leposa gets all of the items, and if Tshow are able to keep up this pressure, they will stop him from getting that farm income. And I'm a little bit sad that they back all the way off into their side of the map, although I think that going for high ground in that situation is a little bit overzealous. Still controlling the enemy woods is an option, and I would have liked to see them explore that avenue and just keep the pressure applied. Windrunner now with her BKB, however, this is go time for Tshow. She still has the Aegis and will for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I like the play of like backing one hero off, maybe to each side lane just to push that out, but then have the Slark and 2 others, or the Wind Ranger and 2 others, stay in the enemy jungle and look for those pickoffs. It looks like they're just going to get right back on the saddle, however, clear out the wards that Keystars just placed, and then try to go in. As you said, BKB on Wind Ranger is go time. This is probably the largest jump of power she's going to have in a very long time, and there's only 2 minutes left to go. Are they going to smoke? They will. And they actually do have some targets on the bottom lane. Observer is going to see Lullaby, but they can't quite get there fast enough. King RD is going to have perfect vision here. They actually might catch Yuka. It's going to be very close. They do catch him. There's the Void Slow. Terrence going to jump in for the break. Viper in a lot of trouble right now. He may get Nightmare, but that's not necessarily going to save him. Power Shot and Earn Charge. Terrence going to stay right on that Viper. He's going to take him down, then pounce out of there. Now the Curse onto Leposa. They caught him both with the Static Storm. BKB is still usable by the Gyrocopter, but he's going to get shackled before he can actually pop that. Now he's just trying to run, but Sis is just staying and delivering with that Daedalus. Is going to drop very low very quickly. He's going to lose the race, but that's just his Aegis. Not a big deal. Terrence, in the meantime, fell back. Is going to get juiced up back to full HP with that Shadow Dance. It is going to be, so far, a 2 for Aegis trade. Viper with no buyback. That's probably good enough for Tshow. The Wind Ranger did not use that BKB, but up towards top lane, Visage Familiars being very annoying. So it looks like Keystars might have held.
But to what end? Since the Viper is forced to buy back there, his item progression is completely shot. His net worth is only about 1,000, maybe 2,000 higher than the Disruptor on the enemy side, more than doubled up by the Slark. Yuka is not going to have an impact at all this game because of that fight, and that's not something that Keith can feel comfortable about. It puts all of the pressure on the Gyrocopter, and even if he has 6 slots, you're still a 6-slotted hero that can just get Winter's Cursed, or maybe even worse, get your team Winter's Cursed and just shoot them down with the MKB damage that you're able to deal. Right now, if Gyrocopter had Butterfly Satanic on top of what he has, maybe replacing the drums with the Butterfly and upgrade the Morbid Mask, they could have a fighting shot. but it's still so very hard. He are holding, but not getting to a situation where they can win this game unless they take a fight outside of their base and take some major objectives. And right now, they're the ones that are getting jumped. They have perfect vision here. Slark's gonna open up onto Laposa. The Shackle will latch, and Laposa drops like a rock. They get Lullaby afterwards. The Ghost Scepter only proving to amplify that power shot. The dataless damage from Windrunner is ridiculous.
I think last fight in the bottom lane, she was enfeebled, so that's why her focus fire versus the Gyrocopter didn't do as much as we just saw, but with no enfeeble, man, there is a lot of damage coming out from this Wind Ranger. And she has another item slot to fill with potentially another damage item or a Sheepstake or something like that. No Gyrocopter buyback for 50 seconds. So this is going to be at the very least a lane of Rax's. The Viper Strike is going to be absorbed by the Lincoln Sphere and Slark's going to pounce out. Terran's playing things kind of cautiously. There's a minor amount of split pushing going on here for Keystars, but it's definitely not enough to save these buildings. But Tshow, just look at how little they're committing to this high ground push. Like, this is going to go for the power shot. Oh, here comes the snowball. It's actually going to go right back to the creep wave. So the Tusk is going to, I guess, harass Sis, if you can call it that, but it's not going to save his buildings. Again, 20 seconds left until this Gyrocopter's back up. Viper Strike again going to be absorbed by the Lincoln Sphere and Terrence. He's going to take all the skills and then just happily jump on out of there. Force Staff, Shadow Dance will get him right back up to full in no time. Maybe these familiars take a trade on this bottom top tier 2, but that's a top tier 2. That's not really going to mean a whole lot. They just lost Raxton.
Yeah, these are only level 2 familiars, and they don't have Dro Aura for them, and they don't have Lycan Howl. They hardly are doing any damage at the point when they're drained, and the initial burst is enough to take out the towers. Slark has a Butterfly, although I don't think this is a super optimized choice for the Slark, since the Gyrocopter already has his MKB. It doesn't really matter because he's that far ahead. Personally, I would have liked to see maybe Moonshard into Basher, or just Basher for Terrence. Slark can do what he wants.
If you want a Butterfly-esque item, go for an Assault Cuirass. You know that you're trying to go for those buildings, so you might as well reduce their armor a little bit, but hey, he's hitting very hard right now. 210 plus 72 plus Essence Shift stacks a little bit down the line. He's gonna invis up one more time. The gem state for Keystars, well, Jubilu just bought his. Well, luckily for him, Terrence doesn't go straight north, otherwise Jubilu would have straight up died there. But Terrence is still on the hunt and still a significant threat. And Gyrocopter, yeah, he has MKB, but he needs BKB, and he needs to also not get hit with that Winter's Curse. A lot of things have to go right for Keystars. Like, I feel like, for the most part, the way that this game is going to progress is a little bit less so in their hands than it is in Tshow's hands to fumble this game.
Yeah, and not to say that they can't fumble. They very well could overextend, but overextension isn't even diving under the tier 3s for a lot of these heroes. The Windrunner has Blink, BKB, Windrun, which mitigates almost all of Keystar's damage, unless they get a Fiend's Grip on her and can wait out the BKB duration, but that's also a really tough sell. Keystars are just lacking the DPS, even with the Gyrocopter's MKB. Not something you see very often, but they don't have a second hero to carry that load. Viper's item progression is still at the same spot it has been for the longest of times. It looks like he wants an Assault Cuirass. He has a Chainmail in his inventory. This would be a great item for him to get, but it's a little too late.
It would be a great item if he also had a Daedalus in his inventory, right? Like, even with an Assault
sure.
Cuirass, he may not be dying super quickly, but the threat that he's able to put out really doesn't change that much with that item. Since it's 45 minutes, and that's like when was the last item picked up? Like 20? Something like that? He's gone a long time without grabbing a substantial item, and Terrence, he has been getting these items like clockwork. He's going to invis up once again. He's going to run into Jubilu. Tusk is going to actually find himself a corner in the trees. See Terrence. And that was actually kind of a blind play from Jubilu. I don't think he knew the Slark was in the area, but either way, good foresight by him, keeping himself alive. Nighttime is still very young, and they are going to smoke up Bagasis and King RD. I like this gank train. You just get the silence off, get the shackle shot, and if needed, you have the glimpse and static storm. Looks like they're just going to scout out Roshan, and that should be the big objective for Keystars. I think it doesn't get any better than a fight in the Roshan pit, but even then, they don't really have much to, really abuse in the Roshan pit besides Call Down and Flat Cannon, which isn't bad, but look at Tshow. They have Curse and Static Storm, which we've already seen destroy Keystars.
Assault Cuirass on Viper is nice. He doesn't even have it, though, and the AC is done for the Night Stalker, which will severely limit its ability to have an impact. You have an Aghanim Scepter on the Visage, although this is, under normal circumstances, a good item to have on Visage. It's 46 minutes into the game, and I think the best that they can hope for with this pickup is to secure a little bit more damage on the split pushing with these familiars. He's going to throw these 2 familiars into the pit. Even if he loses them, it's completely fine since he has a fresh resum, but he is going to lose both. And although he tries for the Aegis deny or Aegis snatch, whatever, it won't be successful. Winner is going to get the Aegis Immortal. Cheese, I believe, is on the Night Stalker, and Slark is going to lead the charge.
And he's going to see the familiars, and if they kill off those, that's, again, big game for Tshow. Keystars need every single asset they have if they're going to take a fight. They also need to not get jumped right now. Jubilu's in a little bit of trouble. Shackle going to land, however, he already pops the Ghost Scepter, so no physical damage there. Sis going to be backing off right now. He is going to get hit with the Enfeeble, so his damage has been drastically reduced, but is that going to be enough? Because Tshow have the cheese and Aegis. They're just going to have King RD lead the charge, taking pretty much no damage from this tower. Focus Fire is still going to demolish the tower super quickly unless they have some sort of substantial answer right now. She's going to blink, dodge the Viper Strike. It looked like that was going to land, but no. It's going to be a struggle of a defense here for Keystars. As also Terrence can just slide in towards the mid lane.
They eat the cheese. I'm not sure if that was entirely necessary.
Oh. Okay, well, just an Aegis, though. I don't think they need a cheese and Aegis to win a fight right now. But still, cheese, I guess he got hungry.
And he's going to walk back into the Roshan pit and pick up whatever he dropped for it. I think his urn.
They lost
they're
2.
hunting.
And his next resummon is in 80 seconds. So 1 familiar worth a split push. Good luck, Brave Soldier.
You'll be remembered fondly. Right now, this familiar is playing a dangerous game. Maybe he can cut the creep wave, but that's about it. This is go time for Tshow. It's darkness. They see nothing. They're going to get the Blink Shackle. Winter's Curse onto Leposa, although the Shackle doesn't latch. That Viper is ripping apart his Gyro. Good defensive Snowball towards the Night Stalker. Leposa will turn on his BKB and try to fight here, but it's just dropping too low. The Gyrocopter has BKB, needs to burn that now. Pounds forward. The Slark is getting so many stacks into the Essence Shift. His damage is ridiculous, but now he's going to have to be forced to play a little bit more defensive here as he will pounce over. But his Shackle latching onto both the Gyrocopter and the Visage. I mean, they should be able to disengage cleanly. The end tally of that fight, nobody on the Radiant side dies or really even gets close to it. They don't even lose their Aegis, and the Gyrocopter is forced to buy back into the game.
These Ghost Scepters are giving Keystars quite a lot of value, keeping themselves safe from the Slark and, if needed, the Wind Ranger as well. This is going to get hit with the Viper Strike this time. Leposa trapped in the field. There is no Static Storm for another 25 seconds, and it is daytime right now, so PRD not fully effective. It's only going to be 15-second wait, however, for Tshow. Sis is kind of banged up, and the Embraces and the Urn Charges will get this Wind Ranger back up to full fighting shape. 12 seconds is all they need, whereas the Keystars side need 45 to have another grip. They're going to call some missiles down onto the Wind Ranger. At this point, doesn't do enough to really make her scared. She's going to actually get hit with the missile, will lose the Aegis, but now Tshow are ready to fight for this one. Familiars overhead, they get the glimpse back onto Jubilu, right in the clutches of Terrence. Jubilu, though, pops the Ghost Scepter, will be fine. Sis is going to get hit with yet another Viper Strike. Keystars are holding right now, but for how long, really? Like, Sis is, yeah, going to drop low on occasion, but every time he walks up, just gets 1 or 2 shots in this tower. Eventually, it's going to fall. Terrence now going to finish the deal, and he's going to charge forward. He's going to be Lil. No, they're going to jump for Leposa. Land the Shackle as well as Static Storm. He is going to fall. He has no buyback. They're also onto Jubilu, who's just going to get beaten down. Snowball's going to buy him a little bit of time, but they're just going to change targets to Vestias. Kill him off now onto Lullaby. He's going to pop the Ghost Scepter, amplify the Void, and he's trapped in the field. He's going to fall, and Jubilu somehow manages to live, but the rest of his team and the game is lost anyway. Keystars lose game 1 up against Tshow.
Unfortunate for Key. It really felt like their draft just didn't mesh very well together, and they weren't able to get to the point where they were super far ahead. Props to the Gyrocopter, the Tusk. There was a lot of small micro plays that were very good, but the Visage pick, the Viper pick, just weren't able to accomplish their goal, it felt. The Viper didn't get an early advantage against the Windrunner. I think a lot of that is going to go down to the fact that Sis played that matchup very well, but at a certain point, the Viper was an absolute non-factor, and the Visage tried his darndest to get split pushing in the top lane, but there really wasn't any end goal, it felt.
They really missed their opening. Like, the defensive power of Visage and Bane is kind of limited, especially when you compare it to a Winter Wyvern. They needed to be on the aggressive, but the early portion of that game went so well for Tshow that there was really no chance for Keystars to actually go on the aggressive. They had the Viper with the mech, and I think that was probably the best point in time where they could have made an aggressive play. But unfortunately not going to happen. It's not over for them yet because we do have at least one more game, guys. The best of 3 and Tshow are now up 1-0. I'm Mikelorus. I've been joined by GrandisV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a little bit.